to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to New Life Live. Really glad you're with us today. And if you want to join us, you can join us at 1-800-229-3000. And joining me today in the brand new Indianapolis or City of Carmel studio, Becky Brown.
Hello, everybody.
Becky, good to be with you.
It's always good to be here.
And in the California studio, Chris Williams. Hey, Chris.
Yes, good to be with you guys.
Now, this is a special program, everybody. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about recovery. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about life recovery and 12 steps. And there's a lot of confusion about what recovery is and isn't and what it's for and what it's not. And if there is that kind of, confusion, hopefully we'll clear that up for you. But if you've got a call or a question you want to call about anything related to, life, because life recovery applies to all areas of life. In fact, Dave Stoop and I are just finishing up 4 brand new workbooks on sexual addiction, on divorce, depression, and eating disorders to use the Life Recovery Bible with these workbooks for those special problems. Anyway, all of us are familiar with 12 steps. Whether you like them or not, you're familiar, you've heard the term, and if you don't like them, what don't you like about them? Because every one of those steps is based on a principle that you'll find right there in Scripture. And in fact, probably the most profound thing that ever happened to me was in a very conservative workshop. The guy would never have dreamed that what he was telling me to do was to do the 8th and 9th step, which was make a list of the people I had hurt and then now go make amends, make restitution. And that really was a life-changing event. That was the first time I could look people in the eye, and because I was so full of shame. But
it's such a great process for, we call it's a sanctification process, really. Yeah. But so many of us are looking for that freedom that life recovery will give you.
Yes.
And if you work the steps, then you'll find that rest, you'll find that peace.
Well, and everybody needs a growth program.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And if you don't want to grow with 12 steps, then what are you using to grow?
Right.
Well, and it's such a clear way, because a lot of times we don't really recognize the amount of junk and weight that we are carrying around in our life.
Right.
Yeah.
That weighs us down and keeps us from being effective, keeps us from being faithful, keeps us from being well connected and doing God's will in the world. And when we go through a clear process to get rid of that weight and then reconnect to ourselves, to other people, and God, and there you have the greatest commandment, love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, others as yourself. There's a clear pathway to do that, and then we become more fully alive and a much better person and much better version of ourselves.
I think it's interesting in the recovery movement how if you haven't worked through recovery, you think it's for those people, for somebody else. And yet we all can find freedom through working the steps. It's it's the best kept secret, but it's really not a secret because so many people have done it and have experienced that freedom.
And you're really talking about the most life-changing aspect of this. It's not knowing the steps, it's not reading the steps, but it's actually working the steps and doing what's required. And that's not easy, especially, when in the 4th step, you try to make a list of shortcomings that you have and defects, and that's not easy to do. And then you open up about it, that starts to change your life right there. 1-800-229-3000, that's our phone number, 1-800-229-3000, and we're going to be right back right after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here. Really glad that you're with us here today. And if you can support what we're doing, here's what you get. We'll send you the Take Your Life Back Day by Day, 365-day devotional. Dave Stoop and I put that together. I have to tell you, it's the best devotional that I have been a part of. I think you'll really enjoy this. It's full of great insight and wisdom. 1-800-229-3000. We're going to be in studio for 2 hours here, so maybe you can get through. And why don't we go to Steve from Denver, Colorado, listens on the great station KRKS. Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. How are you?
Doing okay. What's going on in your life?
So the last couple months have been really stressful on me. I am a recovering alcoholic. I'm having a concern that I can't seem to figure out by myself.
Okay.
So the Lord
what's
has blessed
happened?
me in more ways than I deserve. And the more He blesses me, my life has improved. But with those improvements have come a lot of stresses and struggles that I wasn't prepared for and don't know how to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
and so I'm afraid of taking any more blessings from Him, even though I know He wants to give me all of His love. But I know that every time I come closer to Him, the devil puts a wedge in between us, and that wedge, the things are getting worse and worse. And so I'm afraid to take His blessings because I'm afraid of the consequences that are going to come with them.
Steve, are you still going to meetings? Are you still going to meetings and have connection that way?
No, unfortunately, I have relapsed, and I had 4 years sober, and I'm in a relapse, and so yes, I am back to drinking alcohol and using that as a coping skill.
Mm-hmm. Well, you said that Satan puts a wedge, right?
Yes.
Well, I think Satan often, maybe his two favorite wedgies are these. One would be shame, of course. And if you have not really worked the steps, you carry around the shame with you, and you sabotage the good things in your life because you don't feel like, and it's not obvious, it's not conscious, but you don't feel like, or you can't live into them because of the shame-based living that you're doing. Now, the other wedge is it's a sister or a brother or a very close cousin, and that's arrogance. But a lot of times, the arrogance of, I don't need a program, I don't need this, a lot of times the arrogance is they're just masking the deep shame that's down inside. That's why we know a narcissist who is arrogant beyond arrogant. All of that is because there is a wound there, a shameful wound that is so very, very hurtful. But the answer to both forms of the wedge is humbling down, going to meetings, never ever not going to meetings, and getting a sponsor and working through the 12 steps. I know that you didn't call here probably to hear that, because you've probably heard that 1,000 times. It just happens to be the answer.
Well, and your question, Steve, about why does success bring more chaos? I think that when we are working in recovery, we start to feel where, prior to working recovery, we numb out. And so it's not necessarily that it brings more chaos. It may feel more chaotic to you because you're not in control of it. And you're losing control by not working your program. And you already know this. If you've been, you know what it's like to be in recovery. So what do you think about all of that?
I mean, obviously everything you guys are saying makes sense. But if I can just elaborate for a second.
Okay.
So I guess my biggest problem is the Lord blessed me, and he gave me all this money and a whole bunch of stuff. And then with that, I turned around and said, if the Lord is good to me, I have to give back. So then I started giving back to people and experiencing a life that I've never experienced before. And by doing that, by helping all these other people, now has brought all these problems into my life that I'm not capable of dealing with.
So Steve, hear me out.
The more that I help other addicts and I try to give people money and
hold on. Let me jump in.
Crazy calls.
Yeah. So Steve, you're working with sort of this exchange thing. God gave me all this stuff. I've got to give it back. And I believe right now you're misappropriating the word blessing. Those are not blessings. Money for an addict is a curse because it funds more problems. The
non-recovering addicts.
Non-recovering addicts, that's right. In our addiction, money is a curse in our addiction. The biggest blessing that we receive in recovery as we walk through the steps is not an external blessing of money or financial opportunity or success. It's an internal blessing of peace and assurance and wisdom. And so what you're experiencing here is a lack of wisdom in what to do with the money that you've been given or what to do with the opportunity. And so the chaos inside of you is still driving those decisions because you can be sober and this chaos will come up. Recovery helps you discover that inner peace and the inner wisdom of God so that money then can be a blessing, but right now it's a curse.
Okay, now I want to clarify something you said, Chris.
Yeah, go for it.
You said inner wisdom of God. If we aren't connected to other people, we confuse inner wisdom of God with here's what I think in my arrogance I need to do.
Steve, that's really good, yes.
Humbling ourselves and saying, hey, I'm thinking about giving money to this person. And that person would say, well, wait a second. Why don't you not give to that person? Why don't you give it to the mission and tell that person, you go down to the mission, I've given them money, they'll feed you, they'll give you a place to sleep. That's being responsible. Otherwise, what you said, Chris, you're not fully using or being responsible or a good steward of what God has given you.
And just to reiterate that is the power of the recovery community, is you borrow the wisdom of other people or further along on the road. Absolutely.
So Steve, here's the question.
Sir?
Here's the question. So why, and this is really important for a lot of people to hear this, you could really help a lot of people. Why did you think that you on your own had reached a point where you could start making, these decisions, who to give, you could start not going to meetings, start kind of separating yourself from the recovery community? Is there any message that you told yourself that might help others not listen when that message comes from within them?
I mean, that's a great question, and I guess I don't know the answer to that. I see a guy on the street who needs some money. He's begging for food. I give him some money. Hey, here's my number. If you need anything else, I might be able to help you. I don't know why I thought that just cash would help them.
No, that's not the question. Of course you thought cash would. Of course you thought cash would help them. My question isn't about that. It's why did you think you were at a place in your life where you could disconnect from recovery, from working the steps, a sponsor, having other people in your life?
Everything seemed like it was better. So yes, to answer that question,
okay. So here's the assumption:
everything is going good in my life. I'm at a point that I can start helping, and apparently I wasn't at a point where I could start helping.
Well, here's the key: you're never at a point. We all have to. My wife and I, we go to counseling all the time. We're involved in recovery, and we're going to continue to do it until we want to. And so it's just, you have to accept that as a reality. When you don't, you get in trouble. You're not going to get so smart that you don't need recovery. You're not going to get so strong you don't need recovery. It can become part of your life that will protect you. And so this thinking that now I'm strong enough or now I'm happy enough, it's the same kind of thinking that a bipolar person, hey, well, I'm doing great. I don't need that medicine anymore. Well, the reason you're doing so great is you have the medicine. And so when you stop using the medicine, that's when things get really bad quite quickly. So we've got to stay in. I'm going to send you a Life Recovery Bible. I hope that will be helpful to you. I'll send the workbook with you. Now, this Life Recovery Bible, if you haven't seen the second edition, it's got all sorts of great new stuff in it that the first edition did not have after, it was 25 years ago we produced it.
I think that is the common belief, is that I'm going to go through the 12 steps, I'm going to graduate, and I'm going to be recovered. That I will somehow achieve some level in my life that I've got it all figured out. And that's not exactly true.
Right.
But you're not at the same level in your recovery as the day you go to the first meeting as you work through the steps. And I think that's where, we all have so much to learn for the rest of our lives. It's not like we're going to get to some place where, hey, I know it all.
Yeah.
And I have nothing else to learn.
Well, can you imagine somebody saying, I pretty much got this Bible thing down. I don't need to go to
Unfortunately, I've heard people say that before.
I don't need to go hear a sermon anymore.
That's right.
Yeah. That's not the way it works. And people that say things like, it's just me and God and my Bible. Well, the Bible doesn't say that. Mm-hmm. The Bible says confess your sins one to another. It says don't give up meeting together with other people. So if you're going to follow that Bible, follow the Bible, not what you want the Bible to say. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk with Jessica, New York City, New York. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Okay. Well, my question is there a recovery program for me? And if so, I just don't know which one it would be. I don't know if I have an addiction myself. If it is, it would be maybe a relationship thing. But I have been surrounded by addicts growing up, and I learned to. My mom was an enabler of my father was a philanderer, so sex addict, and then my brothers were drug addicts, and they were abusive, and she enabled them. And then I, later on in life, here I am after 2, almost 3 failed marriages, and I just don't know if it's a codependency thing, or I don't know where to go. I do feel
let me just
very alone now.
All right. I'm really glad you called. First of all, what we've been trying to say is that recovery and the 12 steps aren't just for addictions. That was the problem that they were first used on, and they came out of that in Alcoholics Anonymous, but they're for anyone and everyone. And I think that what you're experiencing is something that's easily identifiable, and a lot of people that have what you have worked those 12 steps.
So it's amazing, Jessica, as you were talking about that, I wrote down the word codependency before you even said it, because the way that you describe all the people around you, and then you just said something at the very end that said, I'm all alone. And so many times when we're acting in codependent behaviors, we are so obsessed about everybody around us that's out of control that we lose ourselves. You could probably tell us more about those people in your life, that their lives were out of control, than you could about your own self. And I know I actually go to a codependency group every week, and we had a woman who shared last week that she's been sober 15 years, and then all of a sudden she discovers codependency is her new issue. That it's hard for her to know who she really is, how she really thinks and feels, because she's been so absorbed in everyone else's life. Does that sound familiar to you, Jessica?
Yes. In fact, my mom, she just passed away, and I was taking care of her and actually fighting my brothers to take care of her. And now I just exactly. My daughter's grown, and I raised her by myself because her father left, and now I completely don't know. I wake up feeling like. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what to do next.
Okay. We've got to go to a break. While we're at that break, be thinking about what would you say is most likely the cause of the 3 failed marriages. We'll give you some help right after this.
God pulled me out of the gutter of my life that I was living in.
I have done a lot of work over the last 40 years. This is the first time I've ever felt love.
I've had such a wonderful weekend here, and for the first time in a long time, I've felt at home.
And the Lord has set me free from my mother's story about me not being good enough.
The New Life Finding Freedom Workshop is coming to Dallas, Texas, September 20th to the 22nd.
We're going to talk about forgiveness and codependency. We're going to understand that family of origin, the unhealthy reactions to it. We're going to talk about the cycle of shame and surrender and developing the plan that moves us forward. There'll be 8 teaching sessions and 6 small group sessions.
To register or to learn more about the Finding Freedom Workshop, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
I am living a new life, and I believe that I have the resources and tools to continue that.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You're a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. Steve Arterburn here with Becky Brown, Chris Williams, and we're just having a little talk here with Jessica. Jessica, any thought on the reason for the failed marriages that you could look at?
Well, I was thinking about it, and my first husband, it was actually 2 marriages. One was a long fiance, and but the first marriage, he left when my daughter was very little, left the country, and I think after that I was just looking for me, I think, one, not to feel the pain, and number 2, I really do think I was looking for a father for my daughter. I don't know, in a way, maybe for my own father issues too.
Good insight. Good insight. I
can
guarantee you that you will, if you will start to get involved in a codependency group, like a life recovery codependency group, and start to work the steps. Can't guarantee you 100% you won't have another failed marriage. But if you have a sponsor, if you're going to these groups and you're being open and honest, then, when you bring a guy around to some of your friends, they're going to be healthy friends. And they're going to say to you, hey, did you notice he was carrying an axe? I think he might be an axe murderer, They'll help you. But also, when you work the steps, you start to look at some things that maybe you hadn't seen before. It's not just what you did, but it was what was done to you in childhood and the impact. And it's easy, when our parents are really mean to us. Oh, well, no wonder But, more often than not, they were mean. And then they were overly embracing and loving. And it was confusing. And it messes us up from one end to the other. And so all of that can be worked through with two things. A great sponsor and working the 12 steps, and a really good Christian counselor to go a little deeper maybe than you can. And
Jessica, you mentioned everybody leaving, and I'm so sorry about your mother's passing. That also brings up a bunch of grief that is you can go unresolved. You can get focused on something else. So if you get involved in a life recovery group that's focused on codependency, you're going to find yourself. You're going to be surprised at how resourceful and talented and gifted you are, and how people want to love you, and that you will be open to that. And healthy people, like Steve said, it won't be an axe murderer, it won't be somebody that's going to, leave you. But, I just want that for you, that you would know that you're loved and that you can have community. And I think working in a group is going to be the next step for you.
Yeah, I'll send you a Life Recovery Bible and the Workbook. And if you'll just find hold on, maybe we can find a codependency group for you in your area. It really could change everything for you. It's changed everything for a whole lot of people. 1-800-229-3000 if you want to join us right here. Let's talk with Jordan, Colorado Springs, Colorado, KGFT. Hey there. How you doing, Jordan?
Hi there. How are you?
Excellent. And how are you?
I am good. I have a question about the Every Man's Battle book and the concept of bouncy eyes.
Okay.
What is your definition of that?
Bouncing your eyes?
Yes.
Don't look at stuff you shouldn't look at?
Is it you bounce away and bounce back?
No, it's just like you'd
what
see...
What I see, I guess, is in my husband, is he does look away, but he looks back and he looks away and he looks back. And I think that's what he thinks bouncing your eyes is. And I was kind of...
That's why she said bouncy eyes.
Plea.
Yeah, he has bouncy eyes, but he's not bouncing his eyes away. And what bouncing the eyes away, it's like you would see in a classic black and white 1940s movie. If in a movie like that, a woman's skirt would blow up or something, a man, you would see him as a gentleman in a movie. It's rare that it occurs today.
Sure.
Would look away. He would just look away because that's what gentlemen do. They look the other way. They don't look the other way and then look back and look away. No. So really bouncing the eyes is a way of saying or communicating we have to get away from the temptation to linger or to lust. There's nothing good in continuing to look at that image or that person. Nothing good or redemptive about looking back. So,
and it's interesting to me, Jordan, how long has this been a problem? How many conversations have you guys had about this?
Oh, we've had some issues, and I know that he's working on that. But obviously, a couple years ago, we had to read the Every Man's Battle book for obvious reasons.
It's really clear in the book, and here's what I would say. If after all this time you're still struggling, he should just come join us for an Every Man's Battle weekend. And then all of this and so much more, he's working through it, and your marriage gets really good really fast. Or both of you come to our marriage weekend and let us work with you there, and we can, in a group, many of the guys they run the Every Man's Battle groups, and they're doing the marriage thing, and all of these things can be clarified. But look, if you need him to do a certain thing and he can't do it, you've got to go outside the two of you. And what you're talking about is he's not even complying with your desires. He's not even coming close. We'll take a break. We'll come right back for more New Life Live. Hold on.
My wife had found me out through my past and my sexual addiction since I was a small child. It really gave me the opportunity to start digging into my past, start digging into my childhood, figure out what was causing me to feel the way I was feeling. Every Man's Battle will really give you that opportunity because all the guys there in that room are there for the exact same reason you're there. I don't want to be the reason that my kids are going to counseling. I don't want to be the reason that they begin to struggle with the same issues that I'm struggling with, and I've got to put an end to this. Yes, you can be different. God does love you. You can be forgiven for this, and there's a way out of this. But you have to acknowledge that you have to change, and that there's a problem.
If you're struggling, call us. There are people on the other end of the line who want to hear from you, who want to help you. We don't want you to hand down something to another generation that just looks like pain and destruction. You can hand down redemption, but you got to take that first step. Just give us a call. It's 1-800-639-5433. It's 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again.
You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back. We're talking with Jordan here from Colorado Springs. Jordan, right before we went to that break, you were about to say something, and we had to go to the break. What did you want to say?
I guess that's just something that I've been thinking about. The marriage is better, and I know we would do much better with a marriage intensive. I think the pride's too big to go to an every man's battle thing for him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it's just something I thought about last week that I was wondering if I got the concept wrong.
Well, you know,
wondering if it met up with what the Bible says, which is flee, and I can see that your concept of it does.
But here's the main thing, that the standard that the world, and this is so key as a message in every man's battle. The standard for the world is excellence, but God's standard is holiness. And so if you make your standard holiness, then you're going to not look back. And anybody that has been in recovery you can slip without, having an affair or going into a strip club or something. You can kind of slip back into an old pattern. And I'd be saying to him, it's easy to kind of slip back into and kind of skirt the edges of the problem. But when you do that, you can also decide, I'm going to go head first back in to being holy, being God's man, being the man you want me to be. And then it's not a matter of pride, it's a matter of what do I need to do that? And then you can say to him, why don't you make a new commitment to? And if in a month you haven't achieved that level that you want to be, why don't you think about going to every man's battle? Chris, you had a comment there?
I actually was just thinking, Jordan, you have actually a much bigger problem than bouncing eyes or bouncing back eyes. And the bigger problem is this, is that when we get so focused on these behaviors, We don't know what's going on the inside of the other person.
True. So true.
And so you're operating out of fear, which looks like control. Like, what he's looking at here, what's going on the inside of him? What is he thinking? What is he feeling? And that's where I'd reiterate, I think a marriage weekend helps you access each other's insides and connect at those deeper level. So, Jordan, that you can feel safer in your marriage. Hopefully he can too, but it needs to get a lot more transparent.
And if pride is keeping you from going, there's
That's
one of those
problem.
Inside things.
Yeah, there's an inside,
That's right. Well, I'm going to send you a copy of this Restoration Bible. It's something that you can work through it together, read it together. It'll help you. And then I'm also going to send you the book, Every Man, God's Man. And that's just another level for him to aspire to and really kind of clean up his act and get to that level of godly integrity. Speaking of God's man...
Right?
Larry Sonnenberg. There he is. Hey, he's in the studio. Larry.
Yes, sir. Good to be here. Thanks.
How are you?
Doing great. Doing really good. And I'm here to encourage our listeners to support Club New Life. All the help that you hear people get through this radio program only happens because folks step up and they send a gift, and we're able to use that to make difference in people's lives.
Larry?
Yes.
I know you were probably going to say some things that you planned, because you always do, but I want to refer to our first caller here. Here was a guy who had been blessed by God, and he wanted to do something and respond, and what he found was, by doing it his way, life got out of control, he relapsed, and he doesn't really know if he actually did help people rather than maybe enable their problem. And I just think it's a great message, a great lesson. When you support this ministry, well, you're giving your money literally to an organization that I believe holds God in the highest of esteem. We try to adhere to his standards. You're really the standard bearer when it comes to stewardship of that money, and we're not going to do something with it that's foolish. The result is going to be the help of somebody else, and you're going to watch or hear that person, the results of your financial gift. You're going to hear them on radio or at a workshop or something, and you're going to hear their life was turned around because you were generous. I just had to interrupt, and it just was such a glaring example of, if you give to us, maybe you can't help in the way that this organization does, but when you help us do it, it goes to your account, and we're going to do a good job with it.
Well, and Chris made a good point. He said to that guy in his addiction, the money was not a blessing, it was a curse. And money is so often misunderstood because people think, if I had all this money, it would be so wonderful. Here's what I would do. But it's a challenge when you have money to know what to do with it, how to deal with it, what to invest, what to keep, what to save. And that kind of plays into what I was going to read for you. A letter said, I'm a monthly donor to New Life, and I have an inheritance money from my parents. I intended to use this inheritance in an investment for myself and for our 4 adult children. And I don't remember if this is a man or a woman, but he goes on to say that a couple of his kids and himself had a check in their spirit about this investment. So he went back to prayer, and he says, I am investing in healing people through New Life's programs.
Amen.
It's great to know, no matter what the stock market does and the economy, this donation is the best investment. So
love that.
I love that. And so we're asking you to make an investment in people's lives. And Club New Life is a wonderful way to do it because it's an ongoing investment. Every month you're giving some so that New Life can continue to do what it do, reach more people, expand our reach where we can, and just we know the good. We know God's hand is on this ministry, and we know the good that happens. And so you folks, thank you for giving. There's all kinds of things about Club New Life we could talk about. I would ask you to call 800 New Life and talk to the person that answers the phone and say, you got to tell me about Club New Life. What's so special about it? And
absolutely.
They will tell you.
And it's just $30 a month. You can call us, 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Hope that you will. Thank you, Larry. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Let's go to Tom, Jacksonville, Florida, WEJF. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Excellent. What's going on?
Thanks for taking my call. I just had a couple of questions. I was listening about the, you're talking about the bouncing eyes and every man's battle. And I'm just, I appreciate women. And when I'm thinking about Adam and Eve, back when God created them, He created them, they were beautiful, they were naked. And then as I remember, they ate the apple, and then when God was looking for them, they were hiding in shame. And, He was asking, why were they ashamed? Because they felt like they were sinning. And to me, I feel like, I appreciate, not me, but some people appreciate art. They appreciate sculptors. They stare at it for hours. And for me, that's kind of how I feel about women. They're beautiful. They're creation in all sizes, shapes, everything. So I don't know why it's so sinful and bad to look at a woman and appreciate what God has made.
So, Tom, you're objectifying women? Is that what you're saying?
No, I wouldn't say objectifying. I mean...
Well, when you compare looking
God
at a
made
woman...
beautiful, and
okay.
Why not look at something that's beautiful?
Okay,
I'm not saying
but when
lusting, I'm just saying appreciative.
I didn't say lusting, I said objectifying, because you compared it to fine works of art. And a piece of art is an object. It is a thing. It is not a person. And so when you are looking at women saying that you're just, observing or appreciating beauty, you aren't looking at them as people with feelings and relationships and that kind of thing. And that's not the way to do it. It has gotten so many people into really bad places in their life. And the main thing is that you're dismissing the person.
Well, and another term is depersonification.
Yes.
You can call it objectification, but it's depersonifying them. It's looking at them in a one-dimensional way. And I got to tell you, if people only look at me based on how I look, then I'm going to be very sad about that, because I have more to me than what I look like. And every year that I exist, I'm not going the right direction here on having greater value if it's all based on appearance. So we're not saying that we shouldn't appreciate the beauty that God creates in women. We're saying that a lot of times the only thing that a man looks at or is interested in is the visual. We'll be back.
I came into this thinking that my husband was the cause of many of our issues.
The New Life Intimacy and Marriage Workshop is coming to Columbus, Ohio, October 25th to the 27th.
But after learning about our attachment styles, I understood how our past hurts were playing into our present problems.
Join Steve Arterburn.
It's been a dream of mine for a long time to help people to grow more intimately together, and we believe that everybody has room to grow in the intimacy level of their life.
And Milan and Kay Yurkovich.
We help couples understand how their attachment style is sabotaging their current relationship, and then we teach them how to create comfort in a relationship.
To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or go to newlife.com.
Here at this workshop, we had our first ever conversation without yelling, blaming, and accusing.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Last year, after Every Man's Battle, I was so moved by the transformation that I saw not only in myself, but in the guys in our small group and the other people that were there and the stories that I heard, that I decided to go ahead and join Club New Life as a contributor to that.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
You guys are doing God's work here. You're restoring marriages. You're giving people hope. it's just been such a blessing to me, and I just wanted to encourage you all, when you see something good that God's doing, just jump on that and help support that.
Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433.
Give your support to them if you can, and just help them do what God's doing here in the world.
Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back, Steve Arterburn here, and I'm going to go to Barbara next. But first, Chris, you had a comment there about...
Yeah, just what Tom was describing. What I heard underneath Tom, and this is what happens, is lust doesn't just objectify the other person. It objectifies the person lusting. And that's the thing that we can't oftentimes see. That's our blind spot when we struggle with lust, is that we make them an object and we make ourselves an object. And underneath the surface, I was like, man, Tom just sounds like he's disconnected relationally. Right. And so that's a sad, lonely, empty place to be. And that is why getting in connection with other people, other men in community, in recovery is so critically important, because they help fulfill some of those relational needs that we have, that we're not looking to just consume from another person that doesn't belong to us or objectify them.
That's the reason why the whole sex industry thrives, is because we're not thinking of those women as people. We're thinking of them as objects.
Yes.
And that's right where you were, Tom.
Not helpful. So the cool thing is there's an answer for it. You can take care of that. You can come to see women as multi-dimensional, beyond the physical beauty. And that's when you really come to appreciate the true beauty of a woman. All right, let's go to Barbara here. Hi, Barbara. Welcome to New Life. How can we help you today?
Hi. Good afternoon.
Hi.
I have a dilemma. There's a young lady that was in... Are you able to hear me?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. There's a young lady that was in one of my classes that her comments tend to be rude when she speaks to others. She seems to... It always seems to be a put down. She pushes away their sensitivity to say, oh, you shouldn't be, and it pushes all of my insecurity buttons, because I have struggled all my life with feelings of insecurity and inadequacy, not feeling good enough. And now I'm finding, where I thought I was doing well, I'm finding that I am reacting to her comments. And my question is, I want to learn, how do I respond? How do I learn to respond in situations like this rather than reacting? What resources, which of your resources can I go to understand me better, understand her better, so that I can be godly in my responses? Yeah. But I find myself reacting.
So I have a question, Barbara. You said she's in one of your classes. Are you the teacher?
No, thank goodness no, because I would have had a hard time dealing with her. But I may end up being in a class where I'm teaching somebody like her, you know?
Yeah, I love your insight and I love your awareness. But I also think that it's interesting because it'll depend on the relationship, how we respond. Because that's what you're saying. You want to learn to respond. You don't want... this internal struggle with her all the time.
Or people like her, and her personality has been a struggle for me throughout life. And so I don't want to continue.
Right, so here's the thing about people, there's a lot of them. And so it may not be her. You're right. There might be other ones. But I wonder what you're learning about yourself in this process. As you're reacting, what's coming out from inside of you? That's where you learn to take your life back. And that was the book that I was thinking of that would be very helpful because you're not going to be governed by somebody else. But Chris or Steve, what do you think?
No, I think that's right, because there's a whole section there on responding to people versus reacting. And, you have to ask in this person that is so irritating, you have to ask yourself, wow, what was it back in my past, or when was it where something like this happened for the first time? Issues like this that bothered me more than someone else. Maybe it's mom, maybe it's an older sibling, but can you think of a time when you really started to be bothered, or she's triggering something from the past beyond what other people are experiencing? Anything there, Barbara?
Yes, because as I said, this has been a lifelong struggle with my mom. I was never good enough. If it wasn't 100%, it wasn't good enough.
So Barbara, let me jump in. Let me jump in here.
Yes.
You just nailed it. Great job, friend. This person's behavior communicates to you that you're not good enough, and that's the story you've been telling yourself your whole life. And this person just being who they are triggers that. You don't need to worry about the other person. Go to focus on, how do I transform this story about myself of not being good enough to being enough, or being loved, or being worthy. And that way you can look at this person through the eyes of compassion and respond with compassion or curiosity, or maybe with a boundary, rather than react and being defined by this person's behavior.
Yeah, very good. I'm going to send you Take Your Life Back, and I hope and pray that you're going to like it. I'll send the devotional too. That's our gift. The devotional is the gift to anybody that supports us with any amount of support this month. And I am so glad that you called, Barbara. A lot of times we don't recognize that we have a reaction that is beyond the reaction of other folks. And when we start to think about that and we start to see that, then we say, well, maybe I need to do something a little bit different than other people do for me to be free from that. One of the things you could do is to join us in Dallas, Texas on September the 20th.
Right.
It's the Finding Freedom Workshop. Anybody with a codependency problem, you're not free. You could benefit. Have a weight problem, you're not free. You could come and learn how to deal with that, keep the weight off for good, forever. Anything you're struggling with, finding freedom, it works for it. You go from responding to from reacting to responding, and working a program that will work for you. You call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, and we can also tell you about our 12 Steps to Happier conference that we're going to be doing October the 5th in Irvine. And our next Every Man's Battle is September the 13th, right there in Houston, Texas. And so many folks are struggling in that area with sexual integrity, or you're attached to somebody who's struggling, and you don't have to go through the struggle alone. We'll help you there. Our Intimacy in Marriage is an astounding event, and that occurs on October the 25th in Columbus, Ohio. And then Restore for women who have been impacted, that's November the 15th.
We have many different ways for people to find a new life, don't we?
We do. We really do. And if you don't need a workshop, we've got a counselor. And I'll tell you, some of the people that support this ministry the most, all we did was help them find a great Christian counselor who had a heart for God, a heart for ministry, and a heart for transforming lives. That really is what we're all about here. It's about transformation of lives. We do it through radio, counselors, resources, books, tapes, videos, and we do it at these amazing intensives. And if you can help us, would you call us 1-800-NEW-LIFE and help us? It's the only way that we get to continue to help people transform their lives. The phone number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You know, I'm so grateful to get to do this with you, Chris Williams. Thank you for being here. Becky Brown, thank you
Always fun.
For being here. And thanks for all of you who listen, who watch us on television, or you pray for us on a regular basis, or you support us financially. All of that works together in community to transform lives. If you need some help, you can help us. It's 1-800-NEW-LIFE. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.